Hello family, you're welcome back to the channel. On today's video, I want to share with you what I titled, Don't Get Married If You Have These Qualities. Now, the reason I want to do this very video is because, when it comes to marriage is a very sensitive matter. The key reason why it is sensitive is because it's something that is going to be there for a lifetime. And for that reason, there are certain things that we must be careful about so that we don't go into it and jump out of it at the end of the day. When we take a look at all around the world, the rate of divorce is increasing by the day. It's increasing, in an outraging number. But guess what? The reason this whole thing is happening is because, people just fell in love. They did not consider the cost. They did not count the cost before entering into marriage. And also there are lots of people who it wasn't their fault as well. The devil stepped into the marriage and destroyed it. That's why you see when it comes to marriage, it is just by the grace, by the mercy of God. When it comes to marriage, trust me, there is nothing like being perfect. There is nothing like you are a professional in it. It is just the grace of God. That is something that I have discovered over the years that has been sustaining me. When I sit down here to share some of these things, it's not because I'm perfect. It's not because I'm a professional or something. It's because, to a great extent and by the mercies of God, I've been able to have some experiences that I felt other people can actually learn from. So with all humility, I want you to understand that marriage is a thing of grace and mercy. That is what I and my family, we are relying on, because without the grace and the mercy of God, one can never be too careful. I'm telling you the truth. So I just want to share some of these thoughts to help someone out there to sit down and actually think about this whole idea of marriage and find out if they are truly ready for it. Because like in my own case, in those early years when I was getting ready to get married, I didn't have the opportunity to hear some of these things that I share, so all I knew was I wanted to settle down. I wanted a family. But as at then, I didn't even understand what it actually means to have a family. Trust me, to have a family is a venture on its own. It's actually like a business. When you are handling a business, the business should not fail in your hands. You have to employ all manner of wisdom and ideas to make the marriage work. So these are part of the reasons I'm sharing some of this stuff. So if this is your first time of coming to this channel, I want to encourage you to subscribe if you haven't done so, and turn on the notification bell so that the next time we post a new video, you'll be the first to receive that video. And I also want to encourage you to like the video, share with your friends and family. There are lots of people out there who need this information. You never can tell what an information in this video can do in the life of somebody. I'm telling you the truth. We are living in that age of self-education. There are lots and lots of people who are, self-educating themselves. And some of these things can go a very long way to help them not to make the mistake that they could have made if they didn't have an exposure to this information that we'll share here. By the way, if you haven't met me before, my name is Franklin from Couples Talk. Okay, so let's get right into it. The first quality, if you have this quality, I would advise you don't get married, is when you are not able to accommodate. A lot of times there are people who have grown up, they've been raised in a certain way such that they are not able to accommodate people. They are not able to accommodate people whom they are not used to, people who seems to be like visitors or strangers. They are not able to accommodate. And when it comes to this, it's a problem. The reason is because the person you're going to get married to, irrespective of the fact that maybe you guys have known each other for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years, or maximum 7 years, the truth remains that you've not come to know this person from childhood. And for that reason, somehow that person still remains a stranger to you. There are still lots of things that you've not come to know. What you know about that person right now is just in parts. You get the point now? And so for that reason, there will always be a time that you will need to accommodate. And guess what? In marriage, you are not just accommodating just that person. You have to accommodate the person's family members. And there are some of them who may not behave right. There are some of them who may step on your toes, get on your nerves again and again, but you have to develop a large heart to be able to accommodate, irrespective of the person's behavior or character. So if you are not able to accommodate, if you are not the accommodating type, then I would suggest you wait a bit, to not get married now until you grow into that place where you have developed a large heart. The next quality that if you have, you shouldn't get married is when you are impatient. There are people today who are not patient. You know, when we talk about patience, you've got to understand, is a virtue. Not everybody have that virtue. I remember before I got married, I was someone who was not patient. I was an impatient person. That's the truth. You know, a lot of times I don't like to hide some of these things, because so that you will know how imperfect that I am, okay? So that you don't think that, oh, this guy is coming here to tell us about this as though he's so perfect. No, that's not the point, okay? So I was an impatient person, you know, but I got a counsel from my mom, and she said, you need to put on the cloak of patience if you want to succeed in marriage. And I took a hold of that word. That word has stayed with me for a very long time. And over the years, being in marriage, I've come to understand that that word, you know, was timely. The reason is because when it comes to marriage, you have to endure a lot of things. Another name for marriage is patience, endurance, and perseverance. That's the truth. Beyond being patient with your spouse, you have to be patient with your children. I mean, when children begins to come, that is another dimension in the school of patience. It's the truth. It's another dimension in school of patience. As a matter of fact, there was a time when I thought, oh, I've mastered patience. I mean, I've become very patient. It was when my kids began to grow up. That was when I realized that there are certain departments that I have not entered into when it comes to patience. There are times when my kids will want to drive me nuts, but then you have to be patient. So if you are not willing to be patient, if you see yourself as an impatient person, then I do not advise that you go into marriage for now. Now, am I saying you shouldn't get married at all? No, I'm saying that you should wait so that you can grow into it. When you grow into it, then it becomes easy. You know, one of the challenges that many marriages face today is because many people enter into marriage at a very young age. That's the truth. A lot of times, the age that people say is the right age for marriage is actually not the right age for marriage. For example, when a girl turns 25, 26, they say, oh, this girl is ripe for marriage. Now, what makes the girl ripe for marriage? Because biologically, you know, time is going. That is the best time for the young lady to actually give birth, you know, conceive and give birth and all that. So a lot of time, that is always the only consideration. And then for the young men, they say, okay, well, as long as you are now 26, 27, 28, you are ripe for marriage. Now, why do they say the person is ripe for marriage? Because the person is done with his or academics, the bachelor's degree is over, the master's is over, the person is now working. So they say, okay, this person is ripe for marriage. So a lot of times, the consideration are just some of these things that I've mentioned, but they do not consider the person's mental state. They do not consider the person's emotional state. They do not consider some of these things. And guess what? All these are the things that play a larger role. I mean, the fact that a man is a graduate does not mean that that certificate is going to play any role in the marriage. Of course, when it comes to the monetary part of it, it will play a role in the marriage. But guess what? The certificate is not going to make the man behave well. The certificate is not going to make the man or the woman to be emotionally stable. You get the point now? So when it comes to this, people talk about some of these things that are not really so necessary. Of course, they are necessary. It's an important factor to be considered. But they consider this and relegate the other important part as well, which shouldn't be. However, to cut the long story short, it is of great importance that you make up your mind to learn the art of being patient. So if right now you are not patient and you have everything, you have a good job, you are earning well, listen, you need to go and learn patience. That's the truth. Okay, so the third qualities that you will have, and you know, I wouldn't advise you to get married, is if you don't know how to be diplomatic or polite. You see, when it comes to marriage, you must learn diplomacy. You have to be diplomatic at all times. The way you relate with people, the way you relate with your spouse, the way you present issues, the way you approach issues, all these things, they play a huge role in your marriage. That's the truth. There are people today who are not polite. There are people today who are not diplomatic. They can speak to you the way they want to speak to you. They can speak to your family members the way way they want to speak to your family members. In most cases, you have the guy insulting the family members of the woman. You have the woman insulting the family members of the man. I mean, when this kind of a thing is happening, I do not advise that you get married. The reason is because it will always create a problem. And when these problems are created, it will give you a bad name. It is better for you to work on yourself first before you think about stepping into. I want to encourage you to learn diplomacy or learn to be polite. It's very, very important. You know, most people don't know that in marriage, there is politics. It's true. You have to learn how to be political in your marriage. Not in the way you may be thinking, okay? There is this idea people have about politics out there. But when we talk about politics in marriage, there are certain things that you just have to play along. It may not be convenient for you, may not be comfortable for you, but because the marriage, the family is more important, you have to just play along. You get the point? Okay, so the next thing that I wrote down here for you is, if you are not able to handle pressure, do not get married. That's the truth. Another name for marriage is pressure. You will face pressure from all angles. There are times when this pressure could be financial pressure, it could be pressure from your spouse, it could be pressure from your family regarding several matters. For example, when there is delayed childbirth, when there's delayed conception, you begin to face pressure from family members and they're telling you we need kids. If you do not know how to handle this pressure, it could get to you, and in the long run it becomes a challenge. If you're not able to handle pressure, please do not get married for now. That's the truth. Do not get married for now. Now, the next thing I wrote down here for you is, if you are not able to pray and fast, please do not get married. The truth of the matter is that when two people come together to get married, they've started a journey. But you see, how the journey started a lot of times is not how the journey continues. That's the truth. Because over time, there are several temptations, several trials, several tests that will come, challenges will come. And if you are not a man or a woman of prayer, then you may not be able to handle some of these things. For example, when a spouse is not feeling well, are you able to stand and pray? Are you able to stand in the gap and intercede? Are you able to go the extra mile? For example, some years ago, I heard a testimony that inspired me a great deal, and it made me to sit down and I began to ask myself questions. Can you do this? Of course, we don't pray for anything bad, but there are things that you hear that inspires you. A man whose wife was diagnosed with cancer, and the man decided to fast and pray every week for 2 years. Every week he would take out some days and fast and pray for the wife, just for her recovery. And guess what? 2 years later, she was free from cancer. Are you able to go an extra mile for your spouse? Or you begin to look outside? Are you able to stand in the gap? Be a man, a woman of intercession in the times when your spouse needs it the most? Think about it. Today, when we talk about marriage, lots of people don't consider this area. They don't see it as something to consider. They just want the title, I am married. But you see, being married is not a title. Being married is a life journey. In this journey, you will encounter several things that should drive you to your knees. And these things are things that can only be sorted out when you are on your knees. You see that now? If you're not a man, a woman of prayer, begin to learn it now. That's the truth. Because there are times when even your kids, the doctors will come and they will give you a bad report about your kids. Are you able to stand your ground and take your eyes off the doctor's report and place your focus on God's will? This is where faith comes into play. Most people don't know that faith plays a huge role in marriage. That takes me to the next thing. If you are not a man or a woman of faith, I want to encourage you, do not get married. Go and spend the time to work on yourself for now, because you need faith for your marriage to work. It takes faith for your marriage to work. So that'll be all for this session of the video. I'm going to be doing a part 2. I want you to watch out for the part 2, because there is so much that I've also shared in the part 2 of the video. You get the point now. I want to encourage you to like the video, share with your friends and family out there. Drop me a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know what resonated with you. And most importantly, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. And also, if you would like to go for my new book, Marriage Made Easy, is a 14-day devotional. It's a very short read. I'll just put the link in the description box below so that you can go ahead and get that very video. Until then, I'll speak to you in the next part.
Oh.